The day we got the keys to our dream home was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My husband and I had spent 10 years working for it. 10 years of overtime, 10 years of sacrifices, 10 years of saying maybe next year, whenever we wanted a vacation, or something nice for ourselves. When we finally stood in front of that house, I cried. I thought all the struggle had been worth it. What I didn't know was that, legally, the house didn't belong to me. It didn't even belong to my husband. A few weeks later, I opened a document and saw a name that made my stomach drop. The owner of our home was his mother. And the worst part? My husband had known all along. For 10 years, my husband and I lived like people chasing a finish line. Every decision revolved around one goal: buying a home. We skipped holidays. We drove old cars. We counted every dollar. Whenever I felt exhausted, I reminded myself that one day we would have something that was ours. The day finally came. I remember standing outside the house, staring at the front door while holding back tears. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't perfect. But it was ours. At least that's what I believed. Something felt strange that day, though. His mother insisted on coming with us to sign the papers. I didn't think much of it at the time. She had always been involved in our lives. Too involved, if I'm being honest. Still, I told myself she was just excited for us. While my husband and the lawyer discussed documents, I noticed her smiling in a way I couldn't explain. Not proud, not emotional, almost satisfied. At the time, I ignored it. I wish I hadn't. A few weeks after we moved in, I went to the city office to update some paperwork connected to the house. It was supposed to be a routine visit. 5 minutes and I would be back home. Instead, my entire world changed. The woman behind the counter looked at her screen and casually asked, "Are you related to the owner?" I smiled. "Yes, I'm the owner's wife." She frowned slightly. Then she said a sentence I still hear in my head. "The owner listed here is Margaret Dawson, my mother-in-law." At first I thought it had to be a mistake. I asked her to check again. She did. Same answer. I remember sitting in my car afterward, staring at the steering wheel for almost an hour. My hands were shaking. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was temporary. Maybe it was for tax reasons. Maybe my husband simply forgot to tell me. That evening, I waited for him to come home. The moment he walked through the door, I asked him directly, "Why is your mother's name on our house?" For a second, his face changed. Just for a second, long enough for me to know he wasn't surprised. Then he looked away. It's complicated. That answer broke something inside me, not because of what he said, because of what he didn't say. He didn't deny it. He didn't look confused. He didn't ask where I heard it. He already knew. Over the next few days, I kept asking questions, and every time he found a way to avoid answering. "It's not a big deal." "You're overthinking it." "Can we not do this right now?" Meanwhile, I walked through every room of that house feeling like a stranger. Every wall I had painted, every piece of furniture I had chosen, every dream I had built. None of it felt safe anymore. And for the first time in our marriage, I started wondering if my husband had ever truly seen me as his partner at all. The arguments continued for weeks. Every time I brought up the house, my husband found a way to end the conversation. Sometimes he left the room. Sometimes he changed the subject. Sometimes he acted like I was the problem. But I couldn't let it go. Not after everything we had sacrificed. One evening, I finally asked him the question that had been haunting me. "If something happened to you tomorrow, where would that leave me?" He didn't answer. I asked again. "Would I even have a legal right to stay in this house?" The silence felt heavier than any argument we had ever had. Then he sighed, the kind of sigh people make when they're tired of being questioned. And that's when he said something that shattered me. "I trust my mother more than I trust you." For a moment, I honestly thought I had misheard him. After 10 years together, after every bill we had paid, after every sacrifice we had made, after every dream we had built side by side. That was his answer. Not an explanation, not an apology, a judgment. I felt like the air had been pulled from my lungs. I looked at him and realized he wasn't angry. He wasn't emotional. He genuinely believed what he was saying, as if it were completely reasonable, as if the woman who had stood beside him for a decade was somehow less, trustworthy than the person who wasn't married to him. I went upstairs and locked myself in our bedroom. For hours, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the walls. The same walls I had spent weeks decorating. The same room I thought would hold the rest of our lives. For the first time since we bought the house, I stopped seeing it as our future and started seeing it for what it really was. A place where I had invested 10 years of love without ever being given a place in return. After that conversation, something changed inside me. Not overnight, not dramatically. Just little pieces of me, one by one. I stopped arguing. I stopped asking questions. I stopped trying to convince him to understand why I was hurt. Because deep down, I realized something painful. He already understood. He just didn't care. For years, I had believed we were building a life together. But now I couldn't stop wondering if I had been building his future while slowly sacrificing my own. One afternoon, while he was at work, I sat alone at the kitchen table. The sunlight was pouring through the windows we had chosen together. The same windows I had spent months saving for. And suddenly I started crying. Not because of the house, not because of his mother, but because I finally understood how little security I actually had. If his mother decided she wanted the house, what would happen to me? If my husband left me tomorrow, where would I go? What had all those years been for? The questions wouldn't leave me alone. That evening, I asked him one last thing. Did you ever plan to tell me? He barely looked up from his phone. No, just one word. No explanation. No guilt. No regret. Nothing. I don't think he realized how much damage that answer caused. Because in that moment, it wasn't about the house anymore. It was about trust. And trust had quietly died between us. Over the next few weeks, I began looking through old bank statements, receipts, mortgage documents, anything I could find. The more I looked, the more my heart sank. I had contributed thousands and thousands of dollars over the years. Money, time, energy, dreams, everything I had. Yet legally, I was standing outside the very life I had helped create. And every night, lying next to my husband, I felt more alone than I ever had before. For the first time in 10 years, I started asking myself a question I never thought I would have to ask. Should I stay or should I leave? The question followed me everywhere. While I cooked, while I worked, while I lay awake beside the man I barely recognized anymore. Should I stay or should I leave? Some days I convinced myself to stay. After all, I had spent 10 years building this life. 10 years of sacrifices. 10 years of hard work. 10 years believing we were a team. Walking away felt like abandoning a part of myself. But other days, I would look at my husband and wonder if there was anything left to save. We still lived under the same roof, yet we felt like strangers. The house that was supposed to bring us happiness had become a reminder of everything that was broken between us. One evening, I stood alone in the backyard watching the leaves fall from the trees. The air was cold. The sky was gray. And for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future without him. It terrified me, but strangely, it also brought me peace. I realized something then. The house wasn't the real betrayal. The betrayal was spending years believing I was his partner while he quietly made one of the biggest decisions of our lives without me. The betrayal was knowing that when trust was tested, he chose someone else, even if that someone was his own mother. I wish I could tell you what happened next. I wish I could tell you I packed my bags and left, or that we fought for our marriage and somehow fixed everything. But the truth is, I still don't know. As I tell this story, I'm sitting in the same house. The same house I helped pay for. The same house that legally belongs to someone else. And every day I ask myself the same questions. Do I stay and keep fighting for a marriage that no longer feels safe? Do I demand my share and start over? Do I walk away from 10 years of my life? Or do I hold on to the hope that somehow things can still change? I honestly don't know. All I know is that the hardest part isn't losing trust. It's not knowing what comes after. And right now, I'm still searching for that answer. It's been months since I discovered the truth. Months since I learned that the home I spent 10 years working for was never really mine. People assume the hardest part was finding out. It wasn't. The hardest part was what came after. Waking up every morning in a house that feels unfamiliar. Looking at the man I once trusted with my entire future and wondering when I became someone he no longer trusted in return. Sometimes I walk through these rooms and remember the woman I used to be. The woman who believed hard work, loyalty, and love would always be enough. The woman who thought she was building a future with her husband. I miss her more than I can explain. Because somewhere between the overtime shifts, the sacrifices, the bills, and the years spent putting everyone else's needs before my own, I lost her. And maybe that's what hurts the most. Not the house, not the documents, not even the betrayal. The fact that I spent so many years fighting for something that slowly taught me to forget my own worth. I still don't know what my future looks like. I still don't know whether I'll stay or leave. But I know this. No home is worth losing yourself for, and no relationship is worth sacrificing your dignity to keep alive. Maybe one day I'll find the courage to walk away. Maybe one day I'll finally choose myself. Until then, I stand in front of a house I helped build, wondering if the real thing I lost was never the house at all. Maybe it was me. If this story moved you, please leave a like and subscribe to Dark Whispers. And remember, never lose yourself trying to save someone who wouldn't do the same for you.